All right. Hey, everyone. Jeff here at StopThePirates.blogspot.com. It's the end of March. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day, so don't, or is it? Don't fall for any tricks. So I was driving home the other day from the desert, and I ran into a big, long traffic jam. And it took forever, but there was an accident. By the time I finally got up to the accident, which was just before the exit where I get off to go home, there was the accident, and it was all just getting cleared up. But there was an ambulance or the paramedic truck or whatever on the side of the road, and it was just getting ready to pull out. And I noticed on the back bumper there was like one of those little igloo coolers, like yay big, you pack a 6-pack in or whatever. And as it pulls off in front of me, I let it in. The cooler fell off. I was like, oh shit, so there's no one behind me. So I pull over, put on my flashers, I pull over and grab it. And I was going to try and run them down, but they got ahead of me, and the other cars got in, and I couldn't reach them. So I figured, well, I'll call them on the phone when I get home. So I come home and I look at the cooler, and I'm just curious, what's in it, because it was heavy and it was like ice shaking around in there. So I open it up, and I swear to God, there's 2 human toes in there that had been severed off, the big toe and the one next to it. And it was a big one. And I couldn't believe it. It's crazy. Well, when I tell this story to people, they go, so what did you do? And I said, well, I called the tow truck. You can use that one if you want. I think my dad told me that like 100 years ago. But what I want to talk about today is the Holy Bible, the Bible. You ever been in a conversation with somebody and they go, and their points aren't really resonating, but they go, oh, but it says in the Bible, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, oh, case closed. Okay, you win. It's in the Bible. It's got to be true, right? I know we're a Christian nation here, and but nobody really knows. Nobody's really looked into. They enjoy the good things about Christianity and what it says, and how you're going to be saved, and the vicarious atonement. Just pray to Jesus to forgive me, and He's going to enter your name into the book of life. So when you leave this plane of existence, you'll be entered into heaven. And if you don't do that, the flip side is you're going to burn for eternity in hell, or it's going to be bad for you. So, but the Illuminati or whoever is running this realm of this place we're living in, they follow this to a T. From my understanding, from my research, they are the descendants of Cain. And what's interesting too is Cain and Abel were begat by Adam and Eve, supposedly in the Bible, in Genesis. And then they had all of this offspring. But my question is, and a lot of people have asked it, well, you have a man and a woman, right, who have 2 sons. Well, who's the woman that these 2 sons are sleeping with to beget all these other children? Well, obviously it would have to be Eve, right? So they were sleeping with their mother, which doesn't make sense. So what's going on here? I don't know, but it's just, food for thought, and you can look into it. But what I like to delve into about the Holy Book, the Holy Bible, is when I came across some verses that Jesus actually owned what's called bondservants or slaves. And slavery was big back in the 2,000 years ago, and is very detailed instructions on how to own slaves and what to do with them, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And so anyway, the Bible contains not one mention of God's desire to end slavery. Out of all thou shalt nots, the multitude of rules that He provides for us, out of all the chapters that God spends giving us intricate directions on making candles, tents, and temples, and out of all the chapters that God inspires the authors to spend on telling us who begat whom, not once does He ever take the time to abolish, admonish, or reject slavery, because God is omniscient, He knew a time would arrive when the results of his silence would include the capture, torture, castration, dehumanization, and/or murder of tens of millions of people around the world. Even with his unlimited knowledge, God still neglects to spend 2 seconds of his infinite time to ensure that we have his documented denouncement of slavery. And and people will say, well, it's just Old Testament. But no, it's in the New Testament too, because I can show the passages where Jesus actually owned bondservants or slaves. So, what's I going to say? It's true. The Bible contains a lot of what's called astrotheology. It has to do with astrology and the stars and the heavens above. And it also has to do a lot with commerce, where they get their commercial laws. How many times should a man forgive another man? 7 times 70. It's the bankruptcy cycles. Here's Exodus 21:7. If a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not leave after 6 years as male slaves do. Now, this is interesting too, because now you'll find that a slave on the U.S. slave plantation can leave after 4 years. But if you recontract with them, like registering to vote and things like this, you're back on the slave plantation. If she or paying your taxes. If she does not please her master who intended her or for himself, he must let her be bought back. So what he's saying there is a man sells his daughter to be a slave, knowing full well that she will be raped, but she had better enjoy the rape and be good in bed, or else the father will have to come and give the rapist his money back. God describes how to become a slave for life and shows that it is completely acceptable to separate slaves from their families. God also shows that he completely endorses the branding of slaves through mutilation. Exodus 21:2. But if a slave says to you, I do not want to leave you because he loves you and your family and is well off with you, then you must take an awl and drive it through the slave's ear and into the door. He will be your servant forever. Exodus 21:12. That's pretty dramatic. Deuteronomy 15:16. When you purchase a Hebrew slave, his service will last for 6 years. In the 7th year, he will leave a free man. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and children will belong to the master, and he will depart alone. Now, are all these some sort of examples of what do you call them? God, I can't think of it right now. Parables, not a parable, but is this a story to me having another meaning? I don't know. I can't really seem to figure that out. So a wonderful, loving God treats his Jews right, except those who are sold into slavery. After 6 years, Hebrew slaves leave, but only if they forsake their 5-year-old son. If someone beats a slave and the slave dies at his hands, he shall certainly be avenged. But should the slave survive for 1 day or 2, he will pay no penalty because the slave is his owner's property. Exodus 21:20. Colossians chapter 3, verse 22. Slaves, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing the Lord, whatever your task, work heartily. Here God shows that he is in complete acceptance of slaves' position and encourages slaves to work hard. This sentiment is repeated in Titus chapter 2, verse 9. Bid slaves to be submissive to their masters and to give satisfaction in every aspect. They are not to be refractory, nor pilfer, but to show entire and true fidelity. Luke 12:46 and 47, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in sunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. And that servant which knew his Lord's will, and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. So was Jesus himself a slave who transgressed against his slave owners, and that's why they beat him and hung him up on the cross, crucified him? But how could a slave own another slave? I don't know. It's a deep, deep subject. See, the Old Testament there's two forms of law. The Old Testament, from my understanding, is the execution of the law, where they believe in human sacrifice for God, and that's what these descendants of Cain are abiding by his rule now. And we're under what's called the New Testament now, which is limited liability, or grace and forgiveness. That's why you can, before, if you were caught stealing, and it is that way some parts of the world today. I think in the Muslim world, they would cut your hand off or something, or cut your tongue out if you lied, or whatever, beat you, or chop your head off if you stole some. It used to be that way in this country too. I mean, if you were a horse thief, they would hang you in the town square. That was death. But now it's limited liability, so you get to go to prison to pay your debts. Exodus 12:44, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. There's a lot in Exodus. Is that Old Testament? I don't know. I want to get to the one Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I mean, people sold their daughters all day long, man. No big deal. Bear with me here for a second. You don't have anything better to do you? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. A lot of people will be happy to hear this. Okay. All right, let me put this on hold for a second. I'll be back.